What if the wisest thing you could do right now isn't make a decision, but learn to trust yourself? Today's guest helps women slow down, tune in, and move through change without losing themselves in the process. I'm Kandas Rodarte. This is Gratitude Geek, the podcast for Gen X women solopreneurs weaving gratitude into your business strategy. And today we are chatting with Sarah Andreas. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me, Kandas.
I am looking forward to chatting with you. You're an artist. You're an author. You have a new book that's recently out. So what would you like the audience to know about you?
I live on a farm in Ohio, and the weather's finally starting to get nice here. So that's always a good thing. An artist. I paint mixed media and finish it with oil paint. So if they were seeing the video, it's right behind, one of my paintings is right behind me drying right now. And I've just been on this amazing journey of self-discovery and I would say almost my whole life, but really since 2019, I left my job. I worked for a Harley-Davidson dealership. So I rode motorcycles, and I don't have a motorcycle right now, but I rode motorcycles for a long time. I worked at the dealership. And when I decided to leave there and start my own business, I really had to do a lot of internal work to allow myself the opportunity to have a business and to do something that was totally out of the norm for me. And, so I can tell you more about that when we're in this conversation. But I really, the last year, 2 years, I've really been focused on living a life I love. And because I've been focused on living a life I love, I also was like, there's so many women out there who are living lives that they can't say they love them. And I was working on my book, Step Into the Ether. That was actually a letter to me that I started trying to understand this process that we go through when we change and when we make a decision to do something different in our lives, and that we don't have to shake it all up. It doesn't have to be that dramatic. And after I wrote it, I was like, oh, this is that process that I go through every time I'm in this situation where I'm feeling stuck and I'm feeling unsure. And if I need to know this, I'm sure other women need to know it as well. And so that's how that ended up.
I want to go down the Harley-Davidson route. And the reason why is because about 10 years ago or so, I saw Ken Schmidt present a keynote presentation, and he is a former marketing director for Harley-Davidson corporate. And before Ken, Harley-Davidson was bankrupt, basically on the verge of going out of business. But he told the story of how Harley-Davidson went from being a brand that people made fun of to being a brand that people tattooed on their bodies. Mm-hmm. And if that isn't a transformation story, the ultimate transformation story, I don't know what is. So were you around when Harley-Davidson was a brand that people didn't respect?
I was not. But it's very interesting because Harley-Davidson is so iconic that in my bachelor's degree and my master's in my marketing classes, they were case studies for what you need to do if you really want to build a community and people behind your brand. So it's super fascinating.
It is fascinating. And that's really what he taught. First of all, he was a hilarious speaker. It was one of the most enjoyable keynote speeches I've ever been in the audience for, live audience for. It was fantastic. But the transformation story is remarkable. And you are absolutely right. It was about building a community. Yeah. And if we as women can't build a community, we haven't learned from our mothers. We may have strayed far from where we need to be. But community building is so important. It's how we pivot. Without our community to support us, we can't pivot. Sometimes it means we have to lose our community and find a new one. You know, I recently went through that where I had to step out of a community to step into another one. But And a lot of women are going through that now because we're finding out things about our communities that we didn't want to know. You know, it's been a very tough time.
Yeah. So one of the things that I always encourage women is don't expect that one community can hold all the aspects of you. So often we think that, oh, I'm a member of this family or this community, and they should be able to be everything for me. And what I've discovered as I've been going through this journey is that I have multiple communities. Some of the books that you read will call them tribes. So tribes of women, right? There's a tribe of women for my art. There's a tribe of women who are for my more nerdy self, the PhD work I do. And if I put those two groups of women together, they would be like, what are you doing? We have nothing in common. And so I think it's important for us to really understand ourselves and what's important to us, and then find people, find support groups, find hobbyists, whoever it is, who will help you and build you up and encourage you, especially if you're going to go into transition. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to, let's say that you want to get into public speaking. Well, I joined Toastmasters because I wanted to become a really good public speaker. And they were an awesome group of people who encouraged me and helped me become better at that. And I think for us, as we're trying to grow and develop and change, you need to find people who will support that and lift you up, not the people, because there are people who like you just the way you are, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're really trying to change, you need people who actually want to help you change, not just keep you the exact same way that you've been forever.
We could talk about Toastmasters forever. It's one of the best things that I ever did as an adult. I didn't have any reason to join. I wasn't trying to be a public speaker. I just thought that it would be fun. I did speech in high school, and I thought it would be a fun way to meet other adults. But when I think about it, the folks that I met in Toastmasters all those years ago, I'm still connected to many of them because it's such a, in its very core, it is a very supportive community.
Yep.
I didn't go the speaking route. I went to the leadership route.
I did the speaking route, but we had people in our group who were also on the leadership route as well. And the cool thing about Toastmasters is literally side by side, you could have a millionaire and a guy who is struggling to pay his rent. Mm-hmm. And they will both be there and be super supportive of whatever it is you're trying to grow and how you're trying to learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just, it brings out the best in people, and it brings in the best people. So yeah. I didn't know that we were going to go down the conversation about Toastmasters. I would love to chat about your book because I love the title, Step into the Ether. Yeah. Talk to me about your book.
Sure. So for starters, the title I think is very much like I didn't have an idea of what the title was going to be. And then I thought about how throughout this journey, at the very beginning of my journey into entrepreneurship, I had this plan of exactly what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And what I call, I held it in my closed fist. And this was my plan, and it was exactly what I was going to do. And there was no deviation. And then COVID happened. And at the time, I was working with my coaching partner, Rose, and I had to work through a lot of stuff because that is not how it turned out. And what I realized in that journey is if I hold my plans in my open palm instead of in a closed fist, that it gives the universe or God or whatever you believe in opportunities to show you other things that could be. And I can tell you that I 1,000% believe that my life right now is so much better because I learned that lesson. I started to paint during COVID because I did a research study with women because I just wasn't sure what to do with myself. 2019, when I left the dealership, I started building up my business, and I had a lot of contracts in 2020, and one by one they canceled because they were all in person. And it was super devastating. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with myself. And I decided to do this research project because my friend and mentor who in my PhD program, she did a study and a master's in arts. And I'm like, what does art have to do with leadership? And she said, you really need to read this research article. And the research article was about how when people are trying to work through stuff, that creative, mindful practices can really ground you and help you, because so much in the United States, we're cognitive. We think about things and we try to ignore the fact that we actually feel things. We have a nervous system, and that nervous system, when you're doing art, you're getting out of your head and into your body. So I read that and I was like, wow, this is super fascinating. So I did a research study with some women on creative mindful practices in leadership. And I had them take pictures through prompts. And I was like, you know what? I'm asking these women to step out of their comfort zone. I need to do something similar. So I bought some paint and I bought a canvas and I painted. And I thought, wow, I might be pretty good at this. And the thing that cracks me up is if you look at that art, you would be like, Sarah, I can't believe you kept painting after you did that. But what I realized is that I had a lot of lessons to learn. When I paint, I paint transformation. So you start with every artist, no matter what you're doing, you start with something that's blank. It's not there, and you pull it from the ether. It comes from out there, and you pull it. And as I was going through the journey and trying to figure out what am I going to call this book, I kept running back to this idea that I truly believe that I'm a creator and that I pull things from the ether. And the reality is that when we have that kind of faith, and however you want to have your faith, you take a step. You take a step into the unknown. And when you take that step, the world, the universe, God reaches up and supports you. And then the next step happens and the next step happens.
Trust.
And I think so.
You're
Trusting
trusting yourself. Yeah.
You're trusting yourself, and you're trusting that it's meant to be. And I had lunch with a friend today, and I was telling her, like, I was scared, but I made the decision that I'm going to do it afraid and have that trust and have that faith when I started my business. And I think so often we let fear stop us from doing amazing things. And oftentimes it's unconscious fear. So we're not even aware that we're self-sabotaging, and we're not allowing ourselves to step out into the ether, to take that step, because we can't even get to that point in time, because as soon as we hear of an idea, we're like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And we come up with all the reasons why we can't do it. And I would encourage your listeners, if that is you, if you're like, oh, I can't do that, just decide, you know what, I'm going to do it afraid. And if I mess it up, I'll do it differently. And the more you can train your body that it's okay. Like, fear is just a feeling. It's not, I don't want to say it's not real, but most of us don't have something that's going to eat us if we mess up. Right?
Yeah. No, yeah. We don't have a prey in our community that's going to eat us, Yeah. I'm in Michigan, so we do have bears, but
right.
I'm not afraid of one right now.
Right.
But yeah.
But if you do have a legitimate, like, hey, something really bad's going to happen, then figure out what can you do to mitigate that. Like, one of the things that I was worried about was not having money to pay for insurance. So I saved up a year's money of insurance. So that way, that was one fear that I didn't have to worry about for a year.
That's a good way to mitigate it. So I have two things I want to cover. So I'm going to tell you what they both are, and then we'll talk about one and then the other. One is how fear is used to manipulate people by the media. And the other is about my grandmother teaching art in prisons. So let's talk about fear. I don't want to miss out on the teaching art in prisons because it's a great story. So, but let's talk about how fear we are constantly being conditioned to be fearful.
Yeah.
Constantly, because it's the easiest way to manipulate us. So how do we address external fear when people are trying to make us afraid?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what has worked for me. And I'm not saying that anybody else has to do the same thing, but I probably made, when I started my PhD, I made the decision that I was not going to consume any news. So I do not watch the news. I do not listen to the news. I figure if something super serious is going on, somebody in my community will tell me. So I just don't consume it. I also am very limited in how much social media I consume because I am purposely putting on blinders. Not that I live in a Pollyanna world and I think everything is perfect. I don't. But I want to live a life I love. And part of living a life I love is not allowing other people to put expectations, fears, other crap stuff on me. And so I try to really limit that. I also purposely, and this is kind of like a little bit, it's sad in some ways, but how you said, you've left some groups to join other groups, right? So there'll be times in your life as you're growing and you're developing and you're becoming your next best self that there's people who can't continue on that journey with you. And you've got to love yourself enough to be like, that's okay. That's okay. Like I love myself enough that I'm not going to change for somebody else. I'm going to just stay on this course that I'm on and just be steadfast and committed to yourself. And a lot of people would say that's selfish, but the reality is that the only person that you really have who will be there with you for every single thing is you.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the commitments that I made to myself a long time ago is that I'm going to be my biggest fan. And part of being my biggest fan is I don't talk crap about myself internally. Like I don't allow myself to have dialogue in my head that is negative about myself. And I don't talk negative about myself to other people as well. And I just make that a rule in my life because so often we have negative dialogue that's in our head that is way meaner than we would ever say to another human being. And I feel like that's another piece of our growth journey is learning how to be really nice to the only person who's going to be there. I mean, you're the only one who's going to be with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
For sure.
That is such a difficult thing to accomplish, being your biggest fan, not saying anything negative about yourself. Because as women, we are taught to be demure and taught to be self-deprecating and taught that we aren't, that we need to be quiet, that we shouldn't voice ourselves. I'm not talking about my daughter's age. I'm talking about our generation, right?
Yep.
I'm talking about Gen X and Gen X adjacent. Yeah, when I say Gen X, I mean Gen X and Gen X adjacent. You're included. So yeah, it's difficult, but I think that is the one skill set that will help us learn to trust ourselves. Is if we can be our biggest fan, we can learn to trust ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. The other little piece of this, and then I want to hear your grandma's story. The other little piece of this is that all of us have mental stories that we tell ourselves all the time about ourselves. And one of the other things that I've put into practice is I have a mantra that I use because when I was at the beginning of the journey, had to reprogram the beliefs that I had about myself. And oftentimes those internal stories come from unconscious level, and they could be places in our lives where maybe you were being made fun of in high school, right? And so you created a story that goes along with that, and it's no longer true about you at all. but you still keep believing it because you've never challenged it. That's why I am a huge proponent of therapy or counseling or getting a personal coach, because we carry so much that's under the surface. And because we never take the time to explore it, we could be holding ourselves back from amazing futures and opportunities. And those stories could have been given to us by people who didn't even like us, but we still allow it to affect us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And why would you let someone who doesn't like you dictate how you feel about yourself for your whole entire life, rather than trusting the people who do like you?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really interesting that you say that, because so often when somebody compliments us, we brush it off. Yeah.
I'm totally guilty of that. When people compliment me, it's really hard for me to accept it. It's really, I have noticed it about myself, especially recently. And I'm like, oh, I really need to work on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to work on
this. And
it
takes practice. It takes practice of just being like, thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Like, thank you for that compliment.
Yeah. And instead of saying all that, say thank you. I have worked really hard to just say thank you.
Yeah.
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 And, eventually it becomes a habit, and eventually it becomes belief.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So my husband is an artist, and he is the youngest of 7 children. So he was left alone a lot, because by the time they got to him, they were done being parents. He was telling me about a conversation he had with his mother about how his mother had said, I'm done raising my kids. I don't really want to be that kind of grandmother. Right. So she, when she was alive, we would leave our daughter with her every once in a while, but she wasn't a cookies and milk grandmother. Right. And my husband didn't have a cookies and milk grandmother either. Both of his grandmothers were, well, one of them was a stepmother. I don't even know if he knew his other grandmother. Anyway, doesn't matter. He didn't have that kind of grandmother either. I did. I had a cookies and milk grandmother, but she wasn't my grandmother. She was my grandmother's sister. I named my daughter after her. Anyway, that's not who I want to talk about. I want to talk about my grandmother, who we called Maynard. Her name was Louise, and she was a world-class artist. Her work was in all over the world. And she also was an art teacher, but her passion was teaching art in prisons.
Mm.
Because imagine being somebody who's so angry and so frustrated with their life that they would commit crime, and then being given a way to get that frustration out through a creative outlet. I only saw her in the summertime because we lived in different states. But when I would go to her house, she would just hand me a pile of clay and tell me to make something, and leave me alone for hours with my pile of clay. And then I'd make something, and then she'd throw it in the kiln, and the next year I'd come back and paint it or whatever. Right. So she gave me an opportunity to use my hands to create something.
Yeah.
And there weren't a lot of people in my life who did that, but art is, and I'm not artistic at all. I'm a crocheter, I'm a hooker, but I don't, I'm not an artist like my husband and my daughter, or my mother and my grandmother. I'm surrounded by artists in my life, but I am not one. Anyway, I wish more people had this opportunity to get that creative outlet for themselves. I think we'd have a lot less crime if people had a way to express themselves through art.
Yeah. Yeah. And usually, when people tell me that they're not creative, because I say, hey, get some kind of a practice, right?
Well, I'm not an artist, but I am creative.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So you don't have to be an artist to be creative. And I think that's important for people to realize, like, being able to create anything is so important, to be able to think creatively. So you can be creative in the kitchen. So if you love to cook, be a creative cook. Go walk in nature and just really appreciate all the beauty that's around you. There's ways that you can do creative, mindful practices that don't require you to paint.
Mm-hmm. Or laying on your back and cloud watching and finding the animals and the shapes in the clouds, that's creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. it's really about getting yourself out of your head and into your body and creating that space where you can just feel what's going on in your life and not really think about it. And I think for me, like learning to do that has been, it's awe-inspiring. If you would have asked me in 2019 if I would be an artist and I would paint, I would have laughed at you, because that wasn't even in my wheelhouse of things that I thought I would do. And now that I do it all the time, I'll tell you this quick story. When I first started painting and people started buying my art, I went through an identity crisis that I had to work through with Rose, because I was like, I went to school to understand leadership development because I wanted to help people really become great leaders and live lives that are really fulfilling, because I believe that we should all be leaders of our own lives and we should really have that ingrained in us. And I struggled with the fact that people were responding to my art and not as fast as I think they should to the words that I was saying. And what it came down to at the end, as we worked through it, is because I'm painting transformation, sometimes it's easier for people to get that message at an unconscious level than to hear the words. And I think that that's really important as well, is sometimes, you need to be able to read the visual language instead of having somebody just talk at you about, hey, these are some things that will help you do an amazing job at whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Art speaks its own language.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to interpret what you're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see the transformation behind you. The flowers are opening up. They're transforming from buds to blooms, and it's all in different stages of the opening into the bloom. So yeah. And that you can interpret that however you want to. The thing about art, so I thought that I would be a anthropologist when I was in college. I thought that's what I wanted to be an anthropologist. Didn't happen.
That's so cool.
What's really cool is that my daughter is a paleontologist. So she's in an adjacent science. The definition of art, according to anthropology, to social anthropology, is art elicits emotion. So if you feel an emotion by looking at something, then it is art, which is a very broad definition.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. All right. Just because I'm nosy. So why didn't you go on to do anthropology?
I came down with something that felt like arthritis when I was in my early 20s. We still to this day don't know what it is, but it lasted until I was in my late 20s. And my husband and I started a business, and yeah. I mean, you just never know where the twists and turns of your life are going to take you. But yeah, I got sick and I couldn't go to classes. I couldn't manage going to class because it hurt. So yeah.
Yeah. Totally understand.
But I still find it fascinating, and new things happen all the time. I mean, the science evolves constantly. I mean, Monday everybody in the scientific world could believe something is true, and then Tuesday, the whole thought process gets turned upside down because something new is found.
As I was going through this last transformational journey, and I wrote Step into the Ether, one of the things that I did for myself was I spent a lot of time and I wrote a new mantra for myself. And I do that every time I am trying to work through something. So for me, when I feel stuck, so that feeling of like, everything's tight, nothing is working the way I think it should work, that is a signal to me that it's time to do some internal work. It's time to do some housekeeping. And what I've discovered as I'm going through those phases is that it's so important for us to not be judgmental and to get really curious when we feel stuck, because that's probably a sign, at least it is for me, that I'm on the verge of something new and there's opportunity there. And when I was younger, that feeling would frustrate me. It would make me so angry because first of all, I would judge myself and I would say, why can't you be satisfied? Everything in your life is perfect. There's nothing wrong, but you're not content. And that was really difficult for me to understand that it's okay not to be content. It's okay to want something different, to want to grow. And I think as humans, I think we're made to grow. I mean, we do it our whole entire lives. We're growing and we're changing. So it doesn't make sense that we wouldn't grow and change mentally as well. So I think getting curious about why am I feeling this way? What is happening in my life right now that maybe is causing this? What have I read or what have I seen lately that makes me think that the world could be different? I think we live in one of the most amazing periods of time. Right now, if you don't have a tribe who is like your next door neighbor or your friends who are in town, you can read books. You can listen to amazing podcasts. You can watch videos on YouTube. We have access to so many more amazing people than we have ever had in our lives. And because of that, you could be exposed in like a 30-second thing to something that changes. Like you said, science changes from one day to the next. You could be exposed to something that changes the way you believe something should be. And it happens at such a quick unconscious level that all of a sudden you're feeling this like angst about, I don't know what's wrong. And if you don't get quiet and do some self-exploration, you might miss an amazing opportunity for your next version of yourself.
Mm-hmm. What's the mantra?
So do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah.
It's not super long. I'll read you the first 3 lines. I am relaxed, present, creative, bright, and confident. And from this place, I live. And when I live from this place, women feel comforted and inspired. And when women feel that way around me, I feel expansive. So the thing that I was trying to change, or the belief that I was trying to change about myself, is sometimes I believe that I can be intimidating. Because I'm very focused, and I think that sometimes that can be intimidating. And so I'm trying to change my perception of myself that, I'm relaxed, confident, focused, and that when women interact with me, that they feel that. Because I have this love and passion for women. And I think it comes from my mom. When I was growing up, my mom was 17. She had just turned 17 when she had me. So she was this baby having a baby. And so I grew up in that environment. And years later, I had a conversation with my mom, and she said, if I wouldn't have gotten pregnant and had gotten married and had kids, I would have went to school to be a vet. And that, I think, was like one of those, you always have those spots in your life that kind of get you on a path. And that was the path where I was like, you know what? I want to make sure that I would not have that kind of conversation with my child. Like, I want to be able to say, hey, I've lived a life I've loved. I've changed courses a lot, but I don't have any regrets. Mm-hmm. And I don't think she regretted having us or any of that kind of stuff. But I just think that I want to make sure that I'm living a life I love, and that when I'm 80 and everybody comes to celebrate my 80th birthday, that they all say, hey, I can tell, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, and just because you don't end up doing the thing that you thought you were going to do doesn't mean that you aren't living a life that you love.
Yeah.
With the vision that we have for ourselves when we're 15 inevitably is not the life that we live. So
thank goodness, right? Because some of us, when we were 15, it would not have been pretty.
No, I think at 15, I wanted to be an opera singer. Roll my eyes. I didn't even know how to sing. So last year I interviewed Lydia Knight, who was a cult survivor. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I asked her, well, how do people get out of cults? And she said it's curiosity, which mirrors what you just said. If you're curious and you ask questions, you begin to see things differently with different eyes. So I think curiosity and trust are the key to moving into the ether.
I love that. I mean,
because how do you take the next step when you don't know where you're going unless you're curious and trusting?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know what? It's funny because I don't know that I've ever put those two together, but that's exactly it. Yeah.
Well, I have the benefit of having interviewed well over 300 people, so I can put a lot of different thoughts together. Take a little piece from here, take a little. Oh, well, she said that, and then she said that, but those two things work together. That's the creative. That's how I'm creative.
Yeah,
I can't take
that.
I
is
can't,
amazing.
I can't paint and draw, but I can take concepts and put them together and create something new with the concept. So,
that's a gift.
We all have our gifts. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about trust and gratitude, because you also have to be grateful for the journey as you're walking into the ether.
I think life is a lot better when you practice gratitude, because then you're shifting your mindset from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset, because I truly believe gratitude is about abundance. So we have so much to be grateful for. I personally have so much to be grateful for. Most of us live in a place where we have clean water. Most of us have a roof over our head. So even when things get really, really rough, there's still so much to be grateful for. So much to be grateful for. And I practice a gratitude journal. I'm sure a lot of people do that. I try to every night, even if I don't write it in my journal, to do what are the 3 things that were really good today? What are the 3 things that were really good today? And I think that taking the time just to count the things that we're grateful for makes such a huge difference. Mm-hmm. Do you have gratitude practices?
Oh, I am the Gratitude Geek. This is the Gratitude Geek podcast. Yes, I have many gratitude practices. The one that I practice the most, though, is every night an alarm goes off at 10:09 and I do 8 things. And 3 of those things are saying things that I'm grateful for. I'm working hard at saying them out loud. I currently do not say them out loud, but a recent guest, Heather Vickery, suggested that I say them out loud. I'm working on it. Mm-hmm. It hasn't happened yet. But we're constantly in transition.
Why is it hard to say it out loud?
Because it's not my habit. I have a habit that I've created.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I've had, and plus, I'm in my bedroom taking my pills, and I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the blackout curtains and making sure that it's dark so the light, the street light across the street isn't beaming in at night on me. That's a true thing. There is literally a street light across the street from my bedroom window, and without our blackout curtains, it would be beaming in my face.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very grateful for those blackout curtains and for the person who invented them, right? So, find the gratitude in the smallest little things. Because the more you appreciate, the more you have to appreciate. What is your advice to that person out there who has a major decision, that Gen X woman out there who's maybe now an empty nester who, just recently got things going on and they've got this decision to make, but really what they need to do is just trust their instinct? What's your advice?
Yeah. So I think a couple things. One is trust is built over time. And we talk about that with trusting other people, but it's the same thing for ourselves. So trusting yourself starts with small steps, right? It's, hey, I'm going to go exercise tonight at 7 p.m. And then at 7 p.m., you actually go exercise because that's something that you're doing for yourself so that you can stay healthy. So we break our personal self-trust in ourselves because we often let other people get into our calendar, into our time that we've set aside for ourselves. And we, for some reason, and I don't know if this is just a female thing or not, but it seems like we feel like we're not caring for other people. And so if somebody says, hey, will you do this for me? We will instantly give up whatever we had planned to go help this other person. And there's nothing wrong with doing that to a point. But so many of us get caught up in the trap where we will always give up ourselves and give up our time. And then we can no longer trust that when I say I'm going to spend 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock exercising, or I say I'm going to do something for me that's special, that I will actually do that for myself. So I think one of the most important things is I encourage women to put yourself into your calendar for time that you're going to spend just for yourself, and then keep that commitment to yourself, because that's the start of, yes, I can trust that I will do what I say for myself. And then if there's a big decision that you have that you're trying to decide, like, how do I trust myself to make this decision? One of the things that, of course, I get back to curiosity again, but I think getting really curious about, what is this decision? What are the impacts it has? And just try to think through all of that stuff from a viewpoint of being curious, not judgmental about the decision you're going to make. And then you can use the thing that I do with I'm afraid, I'm going to be afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. And if it's not the right answer, I will change course. And I think have confidence that you can make good decisions for yourself. You can trust yourself. Like, we make great decisions all the time. And because you get yourself into that habit of being able to make great decisions, then you'll build up more and more trust for yourself.
Last week, we were talking to Karen Yankovich, and she brought up the idea of a labyrinth. How when you're making your way through a labyrinth, you just have to trust that you're going to get out of it. That, you're going to come around the corner and eventually you're going to get out of the labyrinth. And that is what you were just talking about. And as you were speaking, I was visualizing myself walking through a labyrinth, go around the corner. I don't know what's around the corner. I just know that it's going to lead to the out, to get out, right? One step in front of the other. It's Martin Luther King. You don't have to see the next step. You just have to trust that it's there. Mm-hmm. And that is how we make it through the world. It's trusting ourselves, trusting that the path is leading us, and trusting that we'll know if we need to turn around and take a different route.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I do a lot of like little tiny things that kind of help me with this. One of the things that I decided long ago is that I wasn't going to make any more mistakes. I'm going to have lots of learning experiences. So if I make something that would be considered a mistake, I go, man, that was a painful learning experience. I don't think I'm going to do that again. And because I've relabeled it as a learning experience versus a mistake, it's not that big of a deal. And I would encourage everyone, have a lot of learning experiences, because like you were saying with the labyrinth, right? You've got to explore. I call it kissing a lot of frogs. You've got to kiss a lot of frogs to find the things that you love and that you want to do and that you want to experience. And so,
how do you know you don't like it if you've never tried it?
Right.
I can tell you unequivocally that I do not like liver.
Yep, me too.
But I've tried it.
But you at least tried it. Right. And I think that's so important. Like, there's some things that I'm like, you know what? I just don't want anyone to try doing that. Like, I'm not going to say never, because I am a firm believer, and there's maybe someday, but like, I don't think I want to jump out of a perfectly good plane. Mm-hmm. Like, parachuting does not interest me.
However, if the plane was on fire and somebody put a parachute on me, I would jump out of the plane. I would
be jumping out of the plane. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's you can't say I'd never do that, because you don't know if you'd ever be in those circumstances. I love that. I love that analogy. That was fantastic, Sarah. I love it. All right. It is now time for your moment of gratitude. So, Sarah Andreas, for whom or what are you most grateful?
I am most grateful, of course, for my family, because, everybody's grateful for their family. But if we're going to move a step out of that, I am grateful that in 2020, when I did a coaching program, I met Rose Gill, who is my coaching partner and a partner in other things that we do. Because having a person in your life who can ask you really tough questions and hold space for you to do the ugly digging around inside of yourself has made such a huge difference in my life. And I am just, going to make me cry. That's so funny. I'm just so grateful that she came into my life at a time when I was really ready to grow to my next level. And I'm really great. I am so glad you asked me that question, because I really didn't have an answer prepared and so after we get off this, I'm going to call her and just remind her how grateful I am for her being in my life.
Thanks for tuning in to Gratitude Geek, the podcast for Gen X women solopreneurs weaving gratitude into your business strategy. Our theme music is by Rev Brock and Soul Lily. I've been your host, Kandas Rodarte. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friends.